Do you think the wall is still there in people's minds?
It's in my mind. It's in my mind. It will always remain in my mind. Even though I drive down there, I almost slow up in the same place.
In 1934, 2 housing estates were built side by side in North Oxford. One was a council estate, the other a private development. When the private developer heard that slum clearance tenants were being moved into the council estate, he started to worry that middle-class tenants wouldn't want to move into his new houses. So he built a wall.
A red brick wall, which was, I reckon, between 8 to 9 feet, probably.
In fact, he built 2, topped with foot-long revolving spikes.
From one end of the spike to the other end of the spike must have been at least 2 foot. And there were 4 on each collar, so they were revolving round.
Right across the access roads to the council estate.
What was amazing, not only did it go across the road, but it went between the houses. It went between these 2 houses, so you couldn't actually see anything. The path, everything was just bricked up. And the spikes ran right along the top.
And for 25 years, you had to walk the best part of a mile to get round them. When I stumbled on the plaque which marks the spot, nearly 70 years after the walls came down, it wasn't just the history which caught my attention. It was that so many people I met here said they could still tell me the story. And some people I met said they could still see the shadow of it today.
I think if you live here, you notice the difference. If you were just passing through, you wouldn't necessarily realise. But yeah, there is definitely the council end and the posh end.
Mandy was the first to tell me she still notices the difference when I met her at the community centre on the former council estate side of the old walls.
Yeah, sure. I'll come back and get 4. Yeah, sure.
The other volunteers at the weekly community larder call her Click and Collect because she helps so many people out around the estate doing their shopping for them.
I mean, in some weeks we have this. Cost a fortune in the shop.
I tipped up here at a time when you regularly hear people say Britain's never been so divided. And it occurred to me that each of these houses surely has a thing or two to say about that.
4 lots, thank you.
If walls could talk and all that.
We'll leave that one because there's not many there this week.
There's 298 houses on the former council estate side of the old walls. There's 220 on the private side. What tales do these houses have to tell today in the shadow of the Cutteslowe Walls? Where to even begin? Well, that is where a man called Steve comes in.
I'm Steve Griffiths. I was born and raised on Cutteslowe Estate, and the walls were knocked down on my birthday in 1959.
So which birthday was it?
It was my 5th birthday.
You were really little then.
I was really little, but I have a very, very good memory of that whole time and that particular event happening.
That day coincided with events in his family, which meant that every detail of the time seems to be committed to memory.
On the one hand, you have this rather strange occasion for a child to go and walk through this set of walls that had always been there. But at the same time, I have all these memories of these monumental events going on in our family at the time.
Both sets of Steve's grandparents lived on the estate, and his parents got together as teenagers on the estate too.
Housing was at a premium just after the war.
And so this young family of Steve, his little sister and his parents lodged with an elderly council tenant.
And they rented the upstairs rooms from her, which they shouldn't really have done because she was the elderly lady was subletting. At the time, my sister, who I think was about a year, 18 months at that time, was suffering from cystic fibrosis.
And what do you remember about her?
I remember her very well. I remember the cough that she had, even now, where she had to be put over the parents' knees and they had to thump her back to clear her lungs. I was very young, but these things stay in your mind.
What's the letter?
This was the letter from the almoner at the Radcliffe Infirmary.
When Steve's sister was gravely ill, the hospital sent a letter to Steve's mum.
This was at the point at which it'd been discovered that they were subletting.
Which simply said, "We've done all we can to make sure you can stay near to family, because we know how important it is.
It says, "Dear Mrs. Griffiths, this is just to let you know that I've written to the city architect enclosing a certificate about Amanda from Dr. Lovell. I hope this may help you to obtain a house before long. We did mention it would be an advantage for you to be within easy reach of the hospital and also of Amanda's grandparents. If you have time to call in when you're next here with Amanda, I should be very glad to see you." And as a result of that letter, they were allowed to have the tenancy jump the queue.
Miss L.F. Ward, 26th of August 1957.
Yes.
Steve's mum is nearly 90 now, and she's treasured that letter ever since.
As you can imagine, Mother kept it and wouldn't allow it to be destroyed. My sister passed away, my father came from the RAF, and in his back pocket he had posting papers to witness the nuclear tests at Christmas Island in the Pacific. And he was relieved of his duties and was allowed to leave the RAF as a result of her death. So my little sister's death gave the family two very, very wonderful gifts. She gave us a roof over our heads, a council house, and stopped Dad witnessing the nuclear testing and all the problems that we now know came as a result of that.
Anyway, I thought it my duty to authorise the tests. When they are completed, as they soon will be, we shall be in the same position as the United States or Soviet Russia. We shall have made and tested this massive weapon.
What was your sister's name?
Amanda. Mandy. She died in 1958.
Oh my goodness. And then 1959.
Yes, it all like a pack of cards. It all happened really.
When the Cutteslowe Walls were finally demolished and Steve walked through the breach on his 5th birthday, his family were coming to terms with Mandy's death.
They're dealing with this situation, with this extraordinary loss, and that's why I find myself being brought up by grandparents in one side and grandparents the other, you know, in one or staying over in another or up for tea at another house. So home was sort of Cutteslowe enlarged in these three houses.
You don't know anything about who lives in those houses now?
I don't.
Would you like to?
I would.
What would your hopes be for those houses today?
Normality. Simple as that. You know, that was then. Let's have a world now where Cutteslowe exists, where we don't look down on people because they're in this social group or that social group. We got rid of that. The walls came down, you know. Keep them down. That's the message.
I told Steve I'd try to find out what happened to all his homes. First, what happened to the home that was a lifeline for Steve's family through the end of Mandy's life? I knocked at the door. It was an early winter day when the temperature first dropped. A girl in her 20s answered, wrapped in a scarf and a couple of jumpers. She was working from home, she told me. She was friendly, but she didn't want to be recorded. She told me that 6 young professionals live in this house now, 10 in the one next door. The houses had been extended, and it's nice, she said. All the rooms have en suites. But we don't even know who owns this place. We only deal with an agent. But as I turned to walk away, I remembered a conversation I'd had at the community larder, strangely with the lady called Mandy, aka Click and Collect.
When I first lived here, there was none of these multi-occupancy houses, whereas now there is an awful lot.
Because she lives opposite, she'd watched from across the road as each of the homes became an HMO, a house in multiple occupation.
There is literally 6 rooms in each house.
Oxford now has one of the highest number of HMOs in the whole country. An estimated 1 in 5 people live in one here.
There's not enough houses for people as it is, but then a few houses that are, they tend to be sell them and then six people in and charge them a fortune.
It was Mandy who first told me she still senses a distinction between the different sides of the old walls. And to her, the HMOs were one of the main examples of the difference. And on this side of the wall, as it were, more so, or on both ends of the road?
I would say only this end.
Mandy is a council tenant. She'd never heard the story of the Cutteslowe Wall when she moved in.
I didn't even know where Cutteslowe was when I was offered the house, so I moved here not knowing anybody at all. It was a nightmare. I moved into an empty house with a young child, with a bed for my son, bed for me, no carpets, nothing.
But, she said, before long, she found a whole community of people who all looked out for each other.
Quite a lot of single mums. Most nights, just put your kids to bed, and we just sit on the curbside and chat, and hours on end, really, just chatting while the kids were asleep.
When her twins were born at 24 weeks, this was the village of people who supported her as she went back and forth to the hospital for an entire year, while trying to maintain stability for her eldest son.
Yeah, they were born at 24 weeks and spent a year in hospital. I mean, I had no family around the area, so the fact that I still had friends, you knew people that would look out for your oldest. Yeah, it was good.
She'd had no trouble from the people living in Steve's old house. They were perfectly nice young professionals going about their business, but she didn't know them.
We're lucky, I suppose, opposite, that they are really good tenants. But you don't really know who's in there, and they change, and you don't know who your neighbours are, really. It's not the same. Cutteslowe, in some ways, it's a bit like a forgotten estate. Like I said, there is no pubs, no shop. There's a community centre that does a brilliant job, but apart from that, there is nothing.
Do you think there is a sense of community now?
Yes and no. Not like it used to be, but yeah, possibly.
Mandy turned and pointed towards the children's play area, which had filled up with kids after school.
I mean, after school, the park is always full.
What's the but?
But I don't know, when mine were younger, you'd be here for hours, you'd all be sat together. Here you're not really, you're there in the park with your kids, but there's no mums chatting and things like that. They're all sort of separate. They're there, but they're all on their own.
She was right. A playground full of children and scattered adults, none of them talking. It is winter though, I thought. Maybe we're more sociable in summer. I found the listing for Steve's old house the last time it was put up for rent by the owners. 6 ensuite bedrooms and a deposit of £6,000 to secure the rental. The going rate for a single occupancy double room round here looked to be around £800 to £1,000 a month. That's up to £6,000 a month in income for the owners of Steve's old council house. Up to £10,000 a month for the one next door. I contacted the agents to see if the current owner might be interested in hearing Steve's story. Thank you. All right, cheers. Speak to you soon. Thanks. Bye. I never heard back from them. But no matter. This is one of several houses on this estate Steve called home. What happened to the others?